I started freelancing back in 2019, and when I started with very limited knowledge of anything. I started as a complete beginner like most of you. I had very limited knowledge of how to use a freelancing platform, and above all, I have very limited knowledge of the skills to offer to client. And over the years, I made so many mistakes. It took me months to find my first client, and up to a point where I started virtual assistants, and I became better, and I became good at it. And today in this video, I am going to share with you what I will do if I am starting all over again. If I am starting virtual assistants today, these are the things that I am going to do in order to simplify the process and make my success a lot easier and faster. Okay, let's start with the number one. And the very first thing I will do if I am starting virtual assistants today is I will start with freelancing, not virtual assistants. There is a reason for that. When you start as a virtual assistant, especially as a complete beginner with no previous experience and limited skills to offer to client, it might be a lot more challenging to find client. For me, when I started, if I started as a virtual assistant instead of a freelancer, it will be a lot harder for me to find client. Even though at that time I had knowledge of how to use Microsoft Excel, so I can do some data entry work. But because I don't really have enough knowledge of anything, it will take me a while really to build up my skills to be good at virtual assistants and to find clients who are going to trust me to be their virtual assistant. So if I am starting virtual assistants today, instead of being a virtual assistant, I will start freelancing. If I only have knowledge of Excel, I will start data entry freelancing. If I don't have any skills, I will learn something like Canva. If I learn Canva, it will be easy for me to start offering social media graphic design. If you start freelancing instead of virtual assistants, it will be a lot easier for you to learn the skills to start offering to clients. Because if you don't have any skills, it will take time to learn different skills to start offering to client. Even though if you are just going to be general virtual assistant, you might find some SOP from your client and they might need some basic things. It might still be challenging if you are a complete beginner. And so it will be easier for you to learn the skills, because if you are offering freelancing services, you only need to learn one thing. And it will be easier for you to find clients because you have the skills to do the job. If you are offering only one thing, then you really have the skill. You learn the skill, so you have the skill. It will be easier for you to find clients who are looking for someone to do that specific thing for you. Because here is the thing, if you wait until you learn several things to start virtual assistants, then you might end up spending months in learning. Even if you just want to do basic things, you still need to learn how to use Excel. You still need to learn how to use most of the Microsoft items, tools. You still need to learn how to use some Dropbox, Drive, how to write and send emails, and how to do some, especially if you are a general virtual assistant, there are a lot of things you are going to be doing. And so that is why it is going to be a lot easier to start with freelancing. While you are working as a freelancer, you are looking for a client, you will be also learning how to do other things, so that by the time you find your first client or second client, you will also continuously learning and building your skill, and you can be better at a lot of things, and over time you can become a virtual assistant. And when you become a virtual assistant, it will be a lot easier for you to find a client. Because when I decided to transition from freelancing to virtual assistants, it took me around 1 week to find my first virtual assistant client, even though it took me 3 months to find my first freelancing client. But because I already have experience, it took me around 1 week to find my first virtual assistant client. Okay, the second thing that I am going to do if I am starting virtual assistants today is I am going to put more time in learning the actual skills that I am going to be offering to clients. When I started freelancing back in 2019, I had very limited knowledge of web design, and I started offering WordPress web design. And for that reason, that contributed to my failure when I got started. Because I started on freelancer.com, I worked with 6 clients, and 3 of the 6 clients gave me 1-star review. And they write a written review saying, don't work with this freelancer, he don't know what he is doing. And in a way, they are almost right. And so I ended up with 50% bad client review. So it wasn't really, the profile became a lot harder to find client compared to even fresh profile. And so if I am starting today, I will put more time into learning the actual skills that I'm going to be offering to client. Because if you manage to find one client, you need to do the best you can to earn their first 5-star review. And if you did that, then it's going to be easier to find your second client. And if you did bad job with your first client and they gave you bad review, then it's going to be a lot more challenging to find your second client. Okay, the next thing that I'm going to do if I'm starting today is I will create samples. When I started my freelancing career in 2019, I didn't have any sample. I didn't even have the idea to create sample. And so when I am speaking to client, when I'm writing proposals, I'm contacting potential client, it was a lot harder to find the client because they can't trust me. They cannot trust me. I don't have any track record that they can trust me. So what I will do if I am starting today fresh, I will put enough time into creating the best sample possible. Because if a client wants a website design, and I send them a template that I design, and the template is exactly what they are looking for, it is going to be harder for them to pass on. They are going to want to speak to me. And so if I am starting today, that is what I will do. Okay, the next thing I will do if I am starting virtual assistants today is I am going to use only Upwork and Fiverr when it comes to freelancing platform. Because there are a lot of freelancing platforms. When I started, I created my profile on freelancer.com. When it didn't work, I created my profile on Fiverr. I did Upwork. I did Freelancer. I did People Per Hour. There are many freelancing platforms that I created my profile. And that is overwhelming. When you have that many profiles, it is going to be challenging to keep the profiles in good and have good profiles everywhere. And I never had any interview on any other freelancing platform. It's only Fiverr and Upwork. They are the biggest. They are the ones everyone knows. So if I am starting today, I am going to put all my effort and energy into these two, Fiverr and Upwork. So instead of spreading myself too thin into every other freelancing platform, some that even have one job post in 1 week, I will focus only on Upwork and Fiverr. And the next thing I am going to do is, when it comes to freelancing platform, I am only going to focus on Upwork and Fiverr. But I am not going to limit myself to freelancing platform, because there are a lot of challenges in freelancing platform. And when you are just getting started, you have to be patient. It will take a long time in a freelancing platform. And for that reason, I am going to put more energy. I am going to divide my energy. 50% of my energy is going to go into freelancing platforms, Upwork and Fiverr. And 50% of my energy is going to go into cold outreach. I am going to put enough time in creating samples, and when I have great and attractive samples, then I am going to try to find people who are going to be interested in my services, and I'm going to send them an email and include a link to the samples that I created. And that will even increase my chances, because doing cold outreach, I don't need to buy Connect like Upwork, and I don't need to create a gig and wait for potential client to find me on Fiverr. You can simply contact them first. But with cold outreach, it's normal, or even in the freelancing platform, it's normal to send a lot of messages without getting a response. So for that reason, if I am starting today, I am going to put enough time into finding potential clients that I know they are going to be interested in my services, and I create the right samples that are going to be interesting to them, and I am going to keep sending emails. Cold outreach, I will have to send a lot of emails, so I'm going to put enough time into finding a lot of leads, a lot of potential leads, and I'm going to send them an email, introduce myself, and show them what I can do for them. It's important to note that if you are doing cold outreach without having the right samples, you are just going to be wasting your time. I also receive a lot of cold emails almost every day, and I ended up hiring one video editor via cold outreach. And what happened was, at that time, I was thinking of posting a job on Upwork to find a video editor, and I received an email. The freelancer sent me an email, a cold email. They introduced themselves, And I don't even remember, I don't think I read all the email they sent. I just read their introduction. I know they are a video editor and they include links to videos they edited. What I just did is I just checked out the videos they added in the email, and immediately I liked their style of editing, and I ended up contacting them. We had a conversation and I ended up hiring them. And I hired them specifically almost only because of the samples they provided, not even because of the content of the email. And so that is why if you are going to do cold outreach, and you should do cold outreach, you have to have the right samples that are going to be attractive to your potential client. And if you want to learn more about cold outreach, you can watch this next video where I talk about cold outreach in greater detail. If you find the video helpful, please give it a like and don't forget to subscribe. I will see you in the next one.